I'm here as the bishop of the Episcopal Church across Rhode Island, but I'm also here as the board president of the Center for Reconciliation, an organization that's based in our cathedral over on North Main Street. Episcopalians across the state about 7 years ago decided that we had to do something to respond to the poison of white privilege in the community of which we had benefited. We had to do something to come to terms with our own history. Roger Williams, you may remember, was an ordained Anglican clergyman. He was Church of England, that's us. He fled England, came to Massachusetts, and then fled Massachusetts, but he went back regularly. And you probably don't remember where he got his conviction about freedom of religion. It was during the English Civil War. He was on the side of Cromwell, the protector, where they began to force people into religious boxes. And he was shocked at what was happening. And it was out of that experience that grew his idea that government should not force people into religious belief structures, that people should have the freedom to determine their own path. I would love to tell you that the United States followed that vision. While we found a way to honor part of it, the part of it on religious freedom, we didn't always honor the part on physical freedom. And people were brought here in chains, enslaved. Our country benefited from that labor. And there is a lot of work to be done, a lot of stories to be shared as we work to unwind that. And as we work to unwind that, we have to acknowledge the fact that this is frightening. And it is this fear that is giving rise to the toxicity of white privilege, white supremacy, is driving an arms industry, is forcing people to behave in ways that are not human, that are not kind, that are not what we aspire to be as a people. It is hard work to be kind. It is not simply a matter of getting to know your neighbors, but it is a matter of getting to know your neighbors and their story in as much as it forces you to confront your own story. And if you're anything like me, there are parts of you that you'd rather not face. There are parts of you that are reflected in a mirror that you'd rather not deal with. But it won't get better until we do that work. Until we learn to come together, tell the truth to one another, hear the hard words to one another, and don't turn away. And rebuild a community, rebuild relationships that are based around that kind of honesty. The recognition of what has happened, and a recognition that that history does not have to determine our future. We have the power to change that. And I think we have the courage to do that as well. We've talked a lot this afternoon about the extraordinary gifts that Rhode Islanders bring to this conversation, and I will tell you, as someone who has lived in this state almost 8 years now, almost 8 years. I remember where Benny's used to be before it closed. I feel like I'm a real Rhode Islander now, sort of. I will tell you, I've never lived in a place where I have found people more courageous and more willing to face the hard truths. The things that make us this incredible state, the things that make us this incredible community, is that willingness to face that. There are very few other dioceses, other religious organizations in the country that are doing the kind of work we're doing as part of the Diocese of Rhode Island, as part of the Lutheran Synod in New England, as part of the American Baptist Churches, as part of the Rhode Island Council of Churches, coming together to learn the parts of our history of which we are ashamed, and asking for forgiveness, and striving to do better in the future. As we learn the stories of our Muslim neighbors, as we learn your stories that reflect on our stories, be patient with us as we try to overcome the things that we have to overcome. And recognize that we all are being driven by a kind of fear that if we aren't able to learn to be courageous, could well destroy us all. Kindness is going to require courage. Christians have been gunned down in places of worship. Muslims have been gunned down in places of worship. Jews have been gunned down in places of worship. People who are gathering to do civic duty have been gunned down. We do that because we're afraid of our neighbor. I ask us to be brave. To be brave and meet one another as we truly are. When we do that, we can be a light to a wider nation, and the nation can be what we dreamed it might be hundreds of years ago, that shining city on a hill. Thank you.